Live. It says in my corner.
It says that. You showing up on YouTube?
Hello, everybody. We're going to check and
Hello.
see if we're showing up on YouTube. Is it showing up in the Homestead front porch too?
No. Yep, we're on YouTube.
Oh, yay. I got to find us.
Okay, hold on. This ain't working.
Where is us?
I got to shut the YouTube off. There we go. I was getting some back feed. All right. Well, welcome to our live show on Tuesday. We're trying to do this once a month. Just I don't know, just to get ourselves out there on YouTube and see our faces. We're always
There we are
on the podcast, but we don't show up on YouTube that much in person, so it's kind of fun to hop on. And if anybody's got any direct questions or anything, we can try to answer those, and we can just tackle some homestead topics or whatever, but mostly just chit chat. I mean, we don't really come here with any kind of agenda other than just to talk about maybe what we've been doing, or maybe if anybody has any questions, and we can talk about that. So if anybody does have any questions that is joining us, which I'm not so sure there are anybody, is anybody here right now?
I don't see anybody in there yet.
I had to shut it off because I was getting it was playing back in my ears like about 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
I had to shut it off. Hopefully the comments will come over here like they're supposed to.
Yeah. Well, we're both early birds, and so we're kind of running on low steam tonight, and we're using something. Harold is the tech guy, and we're using something we're not exactly familiar with. So, yeah,
it seems to be working. So
yeah, it does. It does.
Well, I thought first we can just kind of talk about maybe some things over the last few days we've been working on our homesteads, and then I have a couple things we can jump into where people had some questions in our Homestead Front Porch Facebook group throughout the week, and we can just maybe talk about that a little bit. And then if anybody has any questions, they can ask a question. Also, you were just talking about some stuff that you were doing with some black locusts. You want to talk about that for a minute?
Oh, well, last summer, was it last summer? Well, probably last fall. I collected some black locust seeds from the pods. They come in they look like beans. If you've never seen them, they're like these beans that hang down from the tree. And I actually collected them from one of my favorite places here in northern Michigan. So if they grow, it'll always be my memory of where I collected them and when. But I collected them, and I thought, well, what happens in the wild when these are sitting out and then they grow in the spring? And I'm like, they get cold. We get winter. So I stuffed them in the fridge all winter.
Really?
And a couple weeks ago, I brought them out of the cold storage, and I used really warm water, not boiling or anything. I used really warm water, soaked them overnight, and then I stuck them in a baggie. And I didn't expect them to sprout like they did, but I have a lot of them.
How many black locusts are we going to have here on the new property?
Well, we'll see. We will see. So far, somewhere around 35.
Oh, wow. That's good. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure not all of them will make it. But
it's kind of like for coppicing for firewood and things like that.
Yeah, I was thinking of firewood and possibly some fence posts.
Yeah, that's great.
But otherwise, we're going to try to keep it under control. I realize that it can procreate through its seed pods and through its roots. So we're going to plant it in a place where we can mow around it, or at least keep it from spreading that way. And then if we coppice it, we would hopefully catch it before it puts out seed pods.
Have you ever seen the coffee trees? They have the pods that look almost just like a black locust. It's called a Kentucky coffee tree, I think is what it's called.
I don't think I have.
And they're a little bit smaller. The seed pods are a little bit shorter, but they look a lot like them. The leaves are different. And a friend of mine had one on his old property, and we were like, that isn't a locust. And we started doing some research on it, and it was a Kentucky coffee tree. And I guess
can you turn it into coffee?
Yeah, it was like a coffee substitute. That I don't remember how it was done exactly, but yeah, that's where it got its name from, which was interesting. I was like, that's kind of cool. So,
that's nice. Yeah, I have not heard of that. I wonder if it would be hardy up here.
Yeah, I don't know. I never even really noticed one before, but we was like, I don't think that's a locust tree,
Huh.
And it wasn't. After we did a little research.
So with the locust tree, they have a really high BTU for people that might not know. So they burn they burn really well. And we have at our property, I will be putting, I'm hoping to be making a rocket mass stove out there, not rocket mass, a rocket stove,
Yeah.
and use that to cook in on when we're out there once in a while. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, folks, I see we have a couple people in the
Oh, we do.
watching live. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and throw or comments. Just go ahead and throw them out there, and we'll do our best or point you in a direction of someone who does have an answer. Hopefully, um, but yeah, that's pretty cool getting some black locusts going.
Yeah.
I today was just potting up some more elderberry. I had a bunch of them in the aquaponics. I still have a bunch in the aquaponics system rooting, and I was pulling those out of there, and they had root balls on them that were probably like 8 inches in diameter. I mean, they were big
Wow.
old root balls, and then they were hanging down. I was just pulling them up, and I was just shocked at how much root was on them, and I was dropping them in pots and trying to
That's
get some of them out of my
awesome.
way because I'm trying to get other things going in there. But I've been just trying to pot up a few every week, and yeah, they've been doing just. I'm just shocked at the ability of an aquaponic system to root cuttings. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be that good for everything. I mean, elderberry root's easy
Right.
anyway,
Yeah.
but how quickly it did it in the aquaponic system just blew me away. And I'm going
That's
to have a
great.
lot of elderberry. I got an entire fence row that I'm just going to just like all the way down, and I'm just going to make it just like double it up, make it real thick, and try to just make a wall of elderberry there, which will be kind of
And
fun.
what are you gonna do with all the berries if you end up with lots of them?
Well, of course, I'll use as many of the berries as we can to make elderberry syrup. But my main goal is hopefully that one day with all those, because I mean, I'm thinking I'm going to have like 50 or so
Oh, wow.
down through there. And just off of the few I have on this property, I was able to take hundreds of cuttings. So I'm thinking out of that. I mean, I could take the cuttings, and I'm thinking maybe it's just for selling cuttings at some point,
Okay, okay.
or even root them in my aquaponic system and sell rooted cuttings would even be
So
even
like a
better.
little side gig type
Yeah, yeah.
thing.
So that's kind of the long-term plan.
Yeah,
Seen
that's cool.
Nathaniel popping in. How you doing, Nathaniel? Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean that's kind of like what I'm thinking about that. But
Okay.
I actually I'm actually making some room because my thinking is I'm trying not to. I'm bad about when things are in the greenhouse, forgetting to get out there as often as I need to maybe water things. So actually took the slotted trays that you don't that won't hold water. They're slotted, so the water drains through them. But then I've got
Oh, okay, yeah.
the cell pack, like the 72 cell packs in there, and tomatoes. Well, then I kind of just pressed them down into the aquaponics medium there a little bit, just pushed it down in so water will come up on it just a little bit. So it'll just kind of keep the very bottom of that wet. And I'll see if how high it soaks up into the soil. I don't want it saturating it all the time, but if it's doing some bottom watering on it, that'd be kind of cool too. And it'd just keep me from having to,
That
it's
is
kind of like
cool.
it's really not, it's more like wicking bed than
Yeah, yeah,
aquaponics, the
yeah.
way I'd be using it like that, the way it'd be operating. But yeah, so I've got my tomatoes and peppers in there like that. And the onions are out there like that too. Actually, I cheated a little bit on the onions. I cut up a whole bunch of milk jugs and used those and just kind of bulk put them
Okay.
like in
Yeah.
bunches so I could just kind of pull them apart when those are growing. I didn't actually use trays for those. But yeah, I did a lot of today, and I did some pruning today. It was so nice here today. I mean, it was,
It was
50s, and
not nice here
it was
today.
windy, it was breezy, but it was pretty nice. And yeah, I was pruning trees, and I coppiced a mulberry tree down from about 20 feet down to about foot and a half. So I took it like all the way down. We're gonna see that I did it last
Wow.
year, and it 20 feet. I mean, it shot up to 20
Oh, yeah,
feet. So
mulberries are so
yeah,
resilient. I
it's
think we cut
amazing.
ours at least we cut at least half of it last
Yeah.
year. Yeah, and then it came all the way back and then some.
Yeah, it's still the first thing that grows limbs and produces leaves every year, even after cutting it down like that. I mean, by the time anything else is
Yep.
putting off some decent stuff, it is too. So it's pretty wild how quick it grows. So it's produces food for the rabbits like really fast. I mean, it's there.
So
Um,
are you putting more of those in too?
what, mulberry trees?
Yeah.
No, I really don't have room
Okay.
for more. I've got two on the property, and that's really all I have room for. But it's actually more than I even need
Is
anyway.
it? Okay.
For
That's cool.
leaves. Um, if I took those things like midsummer, we can get into this a little bit. It's a topic I thought maybe we could talk about was tree hay. A lot of people seem to be
Yeah.
really interested in that right now. I've been getting a lot of questions about tree
Right. Yeah,
hay.
we have.
What is tree hay? And it's not common here, and it used to be a thing, especially in Europe, um,
Right.
with sheep and goats and things like that, especially that at the peak of your nutrients of that tree, middle of summer, when those leaves are just full of energy and just lush, you cut off on trees that can handle it. The trees that
Yeah.
were you're able to coppice like that and chop back and it doesn't hurt them. You can take those limbs and however long a section you're able to store them in, and with all the leaves on them, and store them in a barn. Just put them somewhere dry, let them
Right.
dry, and then you can bring that out in the wintertime and use it like hay, and they'll just eat right off of it. You can do that for rabbits, sheep, goats, even cattle. You
Yeah.
can do it for anything that would eat leaves like that. And there's a lot of popular trees that are,
There
mulberry is
are.
one of them.
Mulberry is, like, one of the best
Yeah,
ones. Yep.
poplar, willow, um,
Those are the ones I know that are the most popular.
the one that's over in Europe that's really popular. I can't. Anyway, I'm
Oh,
drawing a blank on it. But anyway, there's several good coppice trees for tree hay that you can use for tree
yep.
hay, and yeah, they're just fantastic. And I'm telling you, my rabbits, there's nothing they love more than mulberry leaves. There's nothing they love more. I throw a little branch in there with some leaves on it, and they just go to town. They'll eat the stick and all. I mean, they'll eat the branch and everything.
Yeah,
If
rabbits are
it's tiki
pretty, like,
size or smaller, they'll devour it.
yeah, those rabbits can eat a lot of that too.
Yeah, they do. They eat
Yeah.
quite a bit. So, yeah, that's kind of the plan there. Even next year, again, just try to put more of that up. But I have a lot of other trees. I don't know that any of the others are really good coppice trees. I have a lot of fruit trees,
Right.
um,
Yeah,
but
fruit
the
trees aren't
mulberry,
typically
yeah,
considered a coppice tree because
right. But
they have to come back easy, and fruit trees really. Yeah.
right, yeah, the mulberry is just great for that. And like I said, I don't have so many rabbits that I need too
Right.
many of them, but I have two pretty large. I mean, they get that one I coppiced down today. I mean, that thing gets huge. I
Oh,
mean,
they
like I
get
said,
it is crazy. Like, we literally cut ours down, I think, probably to 5 feet last year, and by
yeah.
the end of the summer, it was probably 15. I mean, it just explodes.
Really, the main reason I even coppice it down to the ground like that is because up above it are power lines going to our
Right.
house.
Yeah.
They're about 20 feet up in the air, and it still will get into those power lines. When I cut it to the ground every year, it'll still reach them.
Right, and then when you
Um,
cut that main top one, it just the sides go out.
yeah, and so it's
Like,
really bushy.
yeah.
I never have gotten any fruit off of that tree. It's just all leaf,
You
and I mean,
haven't gotten any off yours
it
ours
could be
either.
a male tree. I guess
Yeah.
they
They
are
do
they have the male and female
male and
trees.
female.
But also when you copse them like that, they're less likely to put fruit in
Right.
because there's just so much leaf, that the energy goes into the leaves more than the fruit. So it's possible that it's just would never, or if I left it alone, it could. I don't know. But the other one that I have also has never produced any berries, which is kind of strange because it's weird that I've picked
Yeah.
two, planted them.
Our neighbors have one that has berries, and that's, I believe, so the 2 that we have in the yard that we kept, we actually dug up from somewhere else.
That's what I did too.
Yeah, and I think it was probably from the neighbor's tree, which a bird planted several years ago, and that one gets fruit, but ours haven't yet. But we also have trimmed ours where the neighbors have never. It's just kind of there. So I don't know if it has to do with us cutting it back or if they're not old enough yet, or we could have males too. I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have 2, and then at our property, I purchased the hybrid mulberries because those have been bred over and over again for their protein
Hmm.
content. So,
I've,
I have
I've, I've
several of those.
I've
Yeah.
talked about it for years, getting some of those, I I always forget, I think they're Pakistan mulberry bushes, and they got, like, a really long mulberry. It looks
Oh,
like it's, like, 4 or 5
I've
inches
seen
long.
those. Those are
They
crazy.
look huge, and I thought, "Man, that would be kinda cool to get a couple of them on the property at some point." They're kind of expensive. Of course, all
Are
trees
they?
are kind of
Yeah. I
expensive.
love mulberries. I think
I do
they're
too.
like one of my favorite
Yep,
fruits. They
me
are kinda
too.
seedy. Well, no, they're not. I'm thinking something else, but I love them. But the
Yeah.
one that is wild produces kind of all summer long and not a ton at one time, so it's kind of, I don't know, it's hard to keep up with, and they are messy.
Oh, I go to the woods every year, pick a bunch, and I grew
Yep.
up just eating so many of them things I'd make myself sick. I mean, every time I
Yeah.
went anywhere there was a mulberry tree, my face, my hands were all
Yep.
colored, and I'm just shoving them in as a kid. And my grandma would be like,
They
"Oh
are
man,
so
you're gonna be
good.
so
They're so
sick."
good.
They give you a bellyache if you eat too many of them, but they make great pies. You ever made pies out of them? They make a great
I
pie.
haven't, but we did
Oh
freeze a
yeah.
bunch
My
last
grandma used
year.
to make pies out of them, and they were great. Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do love them. They're
But
one of my
they're
favorite
the
fruits.
hybrid ones. All of them are I mean, even the mulberry that's just wild or natural, those are good too, but the hybrid ones have a little bit more protein in them, and,
Mhm.
um, yeah,
It's
that
a
was
very
kind of our
useful tree.
plan
It's just
too.
it's I've
Yeah.
did a whole podcast one time about how it was my favorite tree on my property. I just love, how the useful of a tree it is, and, with the leaves and I mean,
Well,
just
the
so many
leaves and the
uses.
bark and the
Yeah,
just
everything.
every
Yeah,
part of it is
and just the
very
tree, the
useful.
wood is even pretty valuable wood too. I mean, it's just great for, burning and smoking things, and it's just got a lot of different uses. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just a
yeah, it's a
really
great homestead tree.
yeah, it is a good I mean, just don't put it near your driveway, right?
Oh, yeah.
It'll
That's where the one our neighbors is there, and, the birds, of course, eat it, and then they poop purple onto your car, and yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And it stains your sidewalks when just walking on it because 'cause
yeah.
they're purple.
Oh, yeah, it
But
just
yeah,
it's a messy tree if it's in a place that's
it
not
is,
where
it
it's
is.
not
But
good
I
for it.
don't mind it because, I like having food just fall from trees, so
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if it's in the right place, it's a blessing, but you put it somewhere where
Right,
it shouldn't be, and it's a curse. Yeah, it's a bad tree, but you put an apple tree where it's dropping apples all over your driveway and rotting and everything else. I mean, it's
right.
the same thing. I mean, it's messy, if you don't keep up with it. So, yeah, there's that. We had another question about comfrey in the homestead front porch. I
We
thought we'd
did.
answered that, and it was somebody was talking about, should I order they were in, like, my zone, 5B, and they were
Okay.
like, "Should I order comfrey now and maybe just hang on to it and then plant it when the ground's not frozen and this, that?" And I'm like, "I wouldn't." I mean, right now here, the ground isn't frozen, so you probably could put it in the ground, the crowns.
Mhm.
They'd probably be all right, but I would just wait. It grows so fast that,
It does.
I would just wait until it's,
Yeah, I would
here.
too.
It's
I
kinda
mean,
like the Mother's Day. They say plant things after Mother's Day. I would just wait till Mother's Day and, order it and plant it and, have it arrive about that time and stick it in the ground, and then, 3 weeks, you'll have a plant,
yeah,
usually from a crown especially,
they
yeah.
thrive. There's really not much you can do to kill them, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
the cuttings take a little while. I mean, usually
They do.
it takes about 5 or 6 weeks to start seeing a plant from a cutting, but from a crown, if you've got a crown,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, a couple weeks, you'll see a small comfrey plant,
Yeah.
standing there, and then it doesn't take very long, and it's a pretty big bushy plant. So yeah,
It's
that would
pretty
be
resilient. I mean, I have a different kind, but I've still had basically a cutting where I've tried to pull up the root and it broke, and I was taking it to the garbage. What I usually have to do with mine is get rid of it in the garbage, but,
you got the common comfrey, yeah.
I do, and wherever we dropped that, there's a comfrey plant.
Is that right?
It does you cannot kill that
That
stuff,
was from
I'm telling
seed. That
you.
was from seed, or just you
No,
dropped
that was
some cuttings?
from a cutting when I
Okay,
tried to pull there's a
okay.
couple places where we don't want it that it keeps coming back, so I keep trying to pull the root. I figure eventually it might actually die, and, I must have dropped it because now we have one coming up by where we keep the garbage cans.
Yeah. That's the great thing about a balking variety, like a balking 4 or a balking 14. Where you put it, it'll stay, but it doesn't really
Mhm.
spread unless you go chopping around it or digging around it. Don't I People say, "I'll put it on the edge of my garden." Well, if you rototill, don't do that because you might catch a root and spread it through your garden.
Yep.
Definitely never do that. I actually have it like around my garden. I have paths, and I do have it on the other side of the path. Like I have comfrey about a 2-foot path, and then my garden beds. There's no
Yeah,
danger there. You could
right.
that's the roots don't really go sideways very far. They pretty much go straight
Yeah,
down.
it's
I
a
mean,
deep
they'll
tap
spread.
root.
Yeah, they'll spread a few inches. I'd say, the width of the plant, probably 10 inches or so.
Right.
They'll get wide, but mostly down. Yeah, it's just a taproot. It goes, they go straight down for the most part. So, you just don't want to be like rototilling right next to it or digging right
No,
next
because
to it because,
it's
yeah,
basically like a rhizome. Anytime you break up any
yeah,
rhizome type plant, you're making more plants.
yeah, that's for
So,
sure.
yeah.
But it's very controllable. those blocking varieties because
It
they're
is,
sterile
yeah.
seeds, very controllable. I've never had an issue of having it somewhere where I just don't want it. Even where I put it where I didn't want it anymore, it's in places where I just mow and I don't ever have to worry about it. It just mows like grass. So
That's
I
basically
never
how we're
see it.
controlling ours at this point is mowing it
Yeah.
because yeah, that mowing it and cutting the we try to cut the flowers off before they go to seed.
We had kind of a drought year last year, so I didn't mow every week, and it was
Uh-huh.
funny because that's how because that taproot's so deep, it was getting water when the lawn wasn't. So there's places where I told you I had it planted because I used to have a trail right there, a little path there, and I had it all the way down along that pathway. And when when I filled that in, I took that path out, but the comfrey was there, so I just started mowing it. But if I would go, there was times where I didn't mow for it was about 3 weeks before I would mow because it was so dry, the grass just
Yeah, I
wasn't
know, it
growing.
was pretty
But
bad.
those comfrey plants were 8 inches tall, right along there. They grew up, but as long as I was mowing every week, you never noticed them. But yeah, if I didn't mow, they would grow when the grass wouldn't because they're so resilient and have that
They
taproot
are.
down.
I
Where they,
can't wait to get a different variety.
well, I will hook you up.
I
I will
know,
definitely send you
'cause
some.
I mean, what I have, I know there's people out there that do want what I
Yeah,
have,
it has a
and they have
place
a
and a
good
purpose.
reason
Yeah,
for them. You know,
yeah,
they're putting them in a pasture where they're gonna be that's what they're using them for, but,
yeah.
I'm ready to have something a little more controllable.
Absolutely. So do you have all your seeds ordered for this year yet?
I do, unless I change my mind and order more because I'm kind of an addict. I got an email right before we got on, I got an email that some of my seeds were in from Strictly Medicinal, that they're sitting in the mailbox.
Oh, yeah. See, I haven't
Yeah.
ordered any herb seeds yet. And I probably should get those. Yeah, because those need to be planted
I can't even
before.
remember. I printed it somewhere. I'm trying to be more organized this year about it, but I can't remember everything I got from them. They have some different seeds, like, it's yeah, they just
I've been
have some
watching their
different
YouTube
varieties.
channel. I remember you turned me on to their YouTube channel here a while back, and I've caught a couple of their YouTube videos.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
uh, yeah, I do need to order herb seeds still. I have one variety of tomato that I'm actually growing for a friend that he wanted, but I didn't get those seeds yet. So I need to get those because he wanted to buy some plants off of me. So I wanted to get those going. But I got the others going. I got plenty of those. Too
Right.
many, always too many. Um,
Yeah. It's
Peppers,
hard
I'm
to know
looking
when to
forward to
quit.
another good pepper year. I actually last year because I started late and I tilled this garden out here, and I actually bought a lot of plants last year and didn't start as much stuff from seed. Like
Okay.
my tomatoes and my peppers last year, I bought plants and planted them. I didn't because I was starting with a whole new area and I got it tilled kind of late, and it was just like I want to just get this thing going. So I actually did buy tomato and pepper plants last year instead of growing them from seed like I usually do. And so I'm looking forward to actually having a bunch more this year started from seed.
See, I'm not
Um,
growing tons of, tomatoes or peppers. I'm gonna grow banana peppers because we love pickled
yeah,
peppers,
I grew so many last year. I mean, I
and,
was the compost pile ended up with more peppers than I did
that's why I'm
anything
not
with.
growing as many this year.
Yeah,
Because
I grew
last year,
so
I
many.
grew so many tomatoes. I have them canned, I have them turned into sauces, I have them dried. We I think I will still have enough all summer, so I think we're just gonna grow an eating tomato for, like, slicing and then a baby tomato just for eating. We love
Yeah.
the yellow pear tomatoes.
Mhm.
I'll grow one of each of those, and then I'll probably grow, some fresh peppers for eating, but the same thing with peppers. I dried peppers. Oh my, I dried so many peppers last year.
Yeah, I did too. That's why I wanna build a solar dehydrator this year because,
Yeah,
man, my
that'd be really
dehydrator
cool.
just never shut off. The
I
thing
know,
was going
our electric
constantly.
bill, whew, last year
Yeah.
from me running that thing nonstop, but I was just like I was out of jars, and I do like to I don't know if you do this, but I like to powder some of my tomato,
Mhm.
turn it into
I
powder, and the
don't
same
know,
with
but
the peppers, I like to turn them into powder and use them in soups, and
mhm.
so it's nice to have them dry, but
Right.
that
Yeah.
electric bill.
And it's a good way to store them too. I mean, it's just
It
they
is,
last really
it
long and
is.
yeah,
They do.
and,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely wanna do a lot more. I mean, I did a lot of dehydrating last year and like I said, I did it with the dehydrator,
Yeah.
and it was just I had it sitting outside on a table on my patio just running 24/7. I mean,
Yep.
I'd empty it, reload it, keep it running. I mean, I just hardly ever shut it off. And I want to build a large solar dehydrator this year.
Do you
Um,
powder greens too? Because I did a lot of that last year too.
I did
I
some.
dried
I
greens
did
and
some
powdered
kale.
them.
I
Yeah,
did some kale and some chard and
because I like to eat smoothies, so
a couple things. Yeah.
I'll put the, you know, greens
I
in.
tried doing the kale chips and they failed again. I just I don't like them. I don't I've tried them so many ways with so many things. I haven't tried the yeast like you say you put on yours,
Nutritional yeast.
nutritional
It's like
yeast.
a cheesy, I don't
Yeah, I
know,
need to
I
maybe
think it's
try
good.
that. That's probably my last, resort there. I'm
Yeah,
gonna try
or like
one more
coconut
thing.
aminos.
I've tried all kinds of flavorings and things, and yeah, it's not a win for me. I'm not a big fan.
Just
I can eat
pulverize
kale.
it and put it in a milkshake and you're good.
Yeah, I don't mind kale. I mean, I eat fresh kale, I'll put it in a salad or whatever and eat. I don't like big chunks of it, but I mix it in with things and it's fine.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the chips, that's not a win for me. I don't like them.
I think
So many people just love them, and I'm like, "Oh, not me."
yeah. Well, and I still have potatoes. I don't know if I'm gonna grow very many potatoes,
Okay,
but
let's talk about this for a minute. You posted a picture in the homestead front porch of your dishwasher loaded up with potatoes.
yes.
Tell me about this.
So oh, I have been so busy at work cleaning houses. I got several houses in the last couple of weeks that are not normal jobs, and my arms are you get sore. I've been vacuuming. I do a lot of construction cleanup, and I spend hours with a 35-pound vacuum on my back and holding a hose with one hand or the other, and my
Uh-huh.
hand was tired, but when I went downstairs and I was checking my potatoes, they're kinda starting to get, like, soft and a little wrinkly, and I'm like, "Oh, I
Gotta
better
do something
can
with
these.
them. Yeah.
I better can these." So, I did not after all the scrubbing I did at work, I did not want to scrub all of those potatoes, and so I'm like, "You know what? This summer, I power washed the carrots, and it worked fantastic."
I remember you doing that.
But I
Yeah.
can't do the power washer because it's drained for the winter, and I don't wanna drain all the hoses again. So I'm like, "I'm gonna put these in the
Is
dishwasher,"
this the
and
first
it
time you've ever
worked.
done this?
It worked.
Okay.
Yeah, it
I
worked
think
really
see, I think
well.
you confused some people because you were talking about seed potatoes,
I know,
and then
yeah.
you was gonna wash them in your dishwasher, and people were like, "Won't that kill?" But it wasn't for seed potatoes. This was
No, I
for
have a bunch
canning
of seed
potatoes.
I have a bunch of potatoes that are on the smaller side. They have eyes on them. 'Em. I'm not sure if they're gonna make it. Some of them are probably some of them won't make it. Some of them are starting to look really sad. So I don't know if they'll make it till May-ish,
Yeah.
April. We'll see. But the bigger ones, those ones I was washing to can, and then I was separating them because I think when we weighed them, it was somewhere around 120 pounds of potatoes in my
Oh,
little
wow.
suburban garden. Big some of them were big russets too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have a great potato year last year. I mean,
Oh,
I
I had a
definitely got
bumper
some,
crop.
but we still got a few. I mean, but I'm definitely gonna run out before I get new more. We probably only got a couple pounds left maybe but I mean, they none
Right.
of them were very big either. They just weren't big, um, big, uh, potatoes. They were all like a medium size. I mean, good for roasts and things. Drop in a
Yeah.
crock pot with a roast or whatever. They're perfect for that, but they weren't those big, sour
Yeah,
cream
some
and
of mine are big.
loaded potatoes.
I made hash browns last week, and then I think we had mashed potatoes, and then we had fried potatoes, and everyone's like, "Okay, we cannot have potatoes this much every week. We need to do something with these."
Amy has a great question. She's asking, thinking in the future of growing trees in containers due to our poor soil, do they have to be dwarf size or can I do full size trees if I keep them pruned? Thinking almonds and a mix of fruit trees.
Oh, wow, almonds. You must be further south.
Uh, yeah, we can grow almonds here.
Oh, can you? Okay.
Yeah. Dwarf does better because what happens is the roots, um,
Yeah, they need that.
like you can keep a tree smaller, but you might actually have to prune repot and trim the roots at times. That's what they do with things like bonsai trees. I mean, these are big
Yeah,
trees, but
basically, you're gonna bonsai it.
they actually cut the roots.
They
So
do.
you can do it. You can keep a full size tree in a pot and prune it, keep it small, but your roots will get root bound if you don't trim the roots also. I think you'll probably have to just
Yeah, and I
repot,
think you're
pull
gonna
it
have
up
to
out of there,
feed
trim it,
it
put it back. Yeah.
you're gonna have to feed it more often,
Yeah. A dwarf
water it
would
more
definitely work
often.
better,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah, I
Um,
would say.
but
And I
yeah, I
don't know,
think you
like,
can.
what size pot would you use? 25-gallon?
Biggest I
Yeah.
would wanna handle and put it on casters so I could roll it around, or
They're heavy,
you
so
could 2-wheel cart it in and out, or, move it around that way or something if you had to move it.
I
Um,
have 2 fig trees, Chicago fig trees, in 25-gallon buckets.
yeah,
They're mineral buckets, so if you can find a farmer that has cows, they often will get these huge mineral tubs, and y they're really sturdy, but, those things are heavy. I had to get casters. They're so heavy once you get soil.
I I don't know how well. I mean, naturally, the fruit trees will I don't know how well a nut tree would produce
I
in
don't
a
either.
pot. I don't know. I question that a little bit, if that would produce, the nuts in abundance for you that way. I just don't know if it would or not. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that you could keep them small and they would grow,
Mhm.
um, but like I
Yeah, they
said, you would
would.
probably have to do some root trimming as well. Where the dwarf is, it's put on the stalk that it naturally has a smaller root ball, so it would
Yeah.
you wouldn't have to do as much root care with a dwarf tree.
Are your trees at your house, dwarfs, or are they full size?
Well, the pear trees that I have, which are the biggest trees on my property, are supposed to be semi-dwarf.
Okay.
When I bought them, it said they would get 12 to 15 feet, and they are over 30 feet right now.
See, that's what I'm wondering, if some of this isn't just how you prune it, because I do have dwarfs. They're not in buckets, they're in my
Yeah,
yard. I don't know how big they'll get because 'cause I've always pruned them, but they
yeah,
still are, like, if I let it grow more than one, like, this year right now, when I looked out there, it's about 8 feet tall.
yeah,
But
yeah, I'm sure they
that's
get
me pruning it
huge.
every year.
I
So,
mean, you got
yeah.
dwarf, you got semi-dwarf, and then you a
Yeah,
full-size
but they
tree.
do tend to get smaller, they do tend to not have the root structure that a
Yeah.
full-size
I mean,
tree.
great. I I mean, if you got poor soil, it's great that you're not letting that stop you and you're gonna try some things, but it just might take some experimenting. I mean, I think you'll know in a couple of years how well they're doing for you. I mean, they're gonna grow pretty
Yeah,
fast and hit their peak size where you want them pretty quick, and if they produce, they produce. I don't know that they would. I mean, again, the bigger the pot, the better. I mean, I'd go for it. If my plan was not to put them in my poor soil, I mean, I wouldn't let
yeah,
that stop me. I would try some things,
yeah, I would try it too, and especially, I mean, if you're not gonna be there forever and ever, I can see wanting to put them in pots. If you are gonna be
I
there forever and ever, I
I
mean, why I guess I would maybe attempt
I'm
improving the soil.
I was getting ready to say, what's the problem with the soil? I mean, when you say
Yeah,
poor soil, what do you mean? Do you mean like there's
poison or
toxicity
yeah,
in it, or are you just talking about that it's just poor growing soil? I would fix that. I mean, I would just put loads of. I mean, just listen to our last podcast we did about amending soils and changing your soil structure and composition and adding things. And
yeah, you
yeah,
could
I
start
mean,
them out in
fix
the
that.
pots while you're improving soil,
And
but
and also, I mean, even if you got toxicities and things, there's things you can do. You can grow mushrooms, then remove the mushrooms and try
yeah,
to use that to remove some of the toxins from soil.
biochar,
I mean, there's a lot of things out
there is.
there that you can do to try to improve that. So it depends on what the issue is, but yeah, I would probably try to improve the soil and get them in the ground if I
Yeah,
could.
yeah,
I just don't know your situation, but yeah, I mean,
right.
if I couldn't do anything, I would try it in pots for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It's always, I mean, I know that they sell pot varieties of, like, citrus fruits because people want
Hmm.
a lemon tree where I'm
Yeah,
at.
somebody wants a lemon
So,
tree in Wisconsin, or yeah, whatever.
yeah, yeah, so, I mean, it can be done, um,
Mhm. You won't get an
but
abundance of.
no,
I
you're
mean,
not gonna get, like, what you would get out of a fruit tree
yeah,
that's in the
right.
ground.
Of
That's
course,
for
I look at those semi-dwarf pear trees I have, and I got 3 of them, and,
there's
uh,
abundance.
yeah, I can more than I can eat, and I give baskets of them away. I mean, I just give tons of them away, and they still fall to the ground and rot, and there's squirrels taking them and everything else, and there's still some on the. I mean, they're so productive.
Right.
And but those trees have great soil. They have comfrey growing all around them, contributing to that great soil. Uh, that,
Well, and that's the other thing you could do is, like, comfrey, which will bring
yeah,
up
chop and
it'll
drop,
mine the
and
soil and bring it up, and you can,
yeah,
um
and it'll help
use
retain
that.
moisture in the soil and things like that. So, yeah, let us know what your issue is with the soil. Maybe we can help you fix that with some thoughts. Like I said, we just covered the podcast
Mhm.
that well, it hasn't. Yeah, that came out this morning, didn't it? Yeah, that
I
one.
think yeah. Well, and the other thing I'm thinking here is, they're not perfect apple trees, so it depends on what you would want to grow the apple trees. So if you were growing, like, say, apples for pigs, you can start them from seed. They're not gonna be great apples, but you will
Mhm.
have an apple tree. I think I remember watching a video of Jack Spirko doing that.
I feel like
Um,
my apple trees aren't. My trees are a variety I bought, to plant, and uh, they they still don't produce great apples. I mean, they're not great eating apples. They always end up having like one bad little spot on every apple, it seems like. And
yeah,
I
I'm
get
still
around
struggling
that
with
and I
it
make
too.
stuff out of it, but as far as just picking them and eating them, they're just not great for that. None of them. And
Yeah,
I have 3 apple trees on the property, then and none of them I feel like are great for just picking apples and eating them. They're great for making things out of, but yeah,
right.
they're
Yeah,
not
I
great for
might
that stuff.
save some of the seeds from our apples this year just to do that. I mean, since we plan on having pigs, I mean,
Now,
pigs don't care if the
are yours
apple's got a worm.
native apples?
Um, we have the one tree in our yard we think was planted from a seed because it's not for various reasons we think that because we haven't been able to identify it. But we did buy several trees that are a specific breed that were on Scion wood, and is that how you say it? Scion or
Yeah,
yeah.
that's how I say it. Um, okay, so those wouldn't if you took the seeds from those would be a little different
Yep.
than yeah,
Yep.
where if
We
they're
have a bunch
native.
of native apple trees around our property. We think they are. I mean, they're just kind of all over the place. We're gonna
Yeah.
prune them this year and see if it helps bring some of them back to life a little bit. Because, like, I don't know, there's, like, 8 or 10 of them, and all of them had, like, 2 apples, you know?
The woods I go deer hunting in quite often, there's a tree and there's an apple tree in there, and I kind of, I'll set up stand pretty close to it because I'm always thinking that's good deer food right there.
Right.
But I'm always blown away. I mean, it's a native apple tree. It doesn't get sprayed or anything, and this thing just like makes perfect apples, and it's
Isn't that
loaded up.
crazy?
Yeah, and it's just in a
So have you
woods.
ate one?
Yeah, I've ate them. I'll pick them and
Are
take
they
them
f
on the tree stand
sweet
with me.
or are they just pretty bland?
They're sour. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're pretty
That's
sour,
what
but they're not bad. I mean, I don't mind sour, but they're
right.
great. They look really they don't have bad spots on them or anything like
Isn't that
that, and
crazy?
yeah, and it's just natural. I mean, they're just growing out there in the wild, and it just does great.
So have you ever wondered, like, maybe you should there was a place up here, but the older couple retired and sold it, and I don't think anybody continued it that I know of, but they sold antique apples, like the seeds and stuff, and I wonder, they didn't sell the trees, they sold the actual apples for people to come and eat, but I wonder if those are just more hardy, like, if you
Yeah, yeah,
like,
I mean,
plant
just
them in the woods than
generations
what
of yeah,
we're buying.
yeah. I mean, they
'Cause they
build
seem
up
so
natural
disease
immunities and,
prone. I have
yeah,
not I'll have to say, I mean, I think growing fruit trees has been harder for me definitely harder for me than vegetables, way harder.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
mine do pretty well on the apples have been the biggest challenge, but they still, I mean, they produce all right. They're just not great eating apples. See, Nathaniel has a question. He says he just purchased 10 bare root trees from Arbor Day Foundation. Any recommendations for soil amendments or best practice to plant them? I mean, how I plant trees is I dig a square hole.
I do a square hole
Pe
too.
people laugh at me for that, but I dig a square hole because
That's what I was taught.
I feel like
It stops that
it stops at, where you get the root
root
binding and
round, yeah.
yeah, and because 'cause you'll get that root, it'll just grow in circles, and I've had it happen. That's why I say that,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
since I've been digging square holes, it hasn't happened, so, I'll dig a square hole. If you have really I generally backfill it with the soil I dig out, unless I know I have a soil problem.
Right.
If you know you have a soil problem, you can add some compost. I would just add the compost to the top though, and I would let it wash in naturally. You just water it in. That way you get kind of like a slow release of compost. And I mean, I'm just big on building guilds and using
Right.
support species
S
to feed that tree, to drop and do the chop and drop, and to provide minerals for that tree. And I'm big on
So
that.
what
But
I did with my trees is I did the square also, but then I planted them. Imagine there's a triangle, like you're planting it on top of a teepee.
mhm,
So
yeah, So you mount in the middle of the hole and then bring your
Yes,
roots
the middle
down
of
so
the
they
hole is higher than the
okay.
side, so I would plant it like that, but I dipped mine in powdered mycorrhizae fungi that I bought.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
was something I had read somewhere, and I had spent a lot of money on my fruit trees. I mean, I spent last year, I think I put in almost we probably spent $1,000 on trees last year.
there was a guy I used
So,
to listen
it
to
was
all
a
the
big
time.
investment for me, and
Uh,
I wanted to make sure those trees made it, so that's what I
yeah.
did. Yeah.
There was a guy I used to listen to all the time, the dirt doctor,
Oh,
Howard,
yes,
I can't
yes,
remember
he's
his name.
good.
Anyway, yeah, he was just really knowledgeable, and he's always say, just don't baby it kinda, put your same dirt you pull out, put it back in, and, then if you start seeing something struggling, then you fix it. But you want that tree to kind of adjust to the soil it
Right.
has, because that's the soil it's gonna always have unless you're doing a lot of work to keep it there. And in my experience, bare root trees do better than a potted tree
They
anyway.
do.
They just adapt better and
Just
quicker, it
don't
seems like.
plant them. The other mistake I have made was
Too deep.
planting them too deep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's real easy to do that. You wanna plant
You
to
think,
where
"Oh,
the
deeper is better." No, not
it's
with
not with a
trees.
tree. Yeah, trees like to spread on the topsoil. So yeah, bring it up. You want the top of them roots where they start to come up. You want that right at ground level. It's
Yep.
just slightly above the top of the ground. So yeah, he says he has compacted soil. Previously a horse pasture. Um, yeah, so it should have plenty of nutrients, I would think.
Right?
Well decomposed. Yeah, I mean, soften it, and you might, if it's really compacted, you might add some. You might add some organic material, just some
Right. Or you
compost
might
or,
wanna just
something.
dig a bigger square to
Yeah, just
loosen the
loosen up
soil
yeah,
around
dig
it
it
and then
bigger,
put that
really loosen it
same
up.
yeah,
Yeah,
dig a
yeah,
bigger square and then loosen it up around it, but put that same soil back in, or you
you
might
might have
need
to.
to add, um, whatever, like some grass or something to keep it fluffier.
Yeah, the key with I think is just with a young tree is just water well for a while, especially if we get a hot spring.
Yes.
You really want to be diligent
And
about
if you can
watering.
shade that soil with some, like, wood chips or
Yeah,
you can
cover it
plant
with
some
some
comfrey and
yeah,
yeah.
either use some support species with broad leaves or yeah, wood chips or something and get that soil covered up. Help it retain that moisture because you want to keep that ground fairly moist. You
Yeah,
don't want
and
to
I
drown your
forget
tree, but
I can't remember, but you wanna water and not just at where the bark is, you wanna water out too, and as that tree
the,
grows through
the
this,
crown,
you wanna
yeah,
water that crown
yeah.
area really well, and they take a
The drip,
lot
what
of
they call that,
water.
the drip, yeah, whatever they call that,
That
wherever,
drip yeah.
yeah, the
They
line,
take
yeah.
a lot of water. I mean, quite a bit.
Yeah, and, like, when I water trees, I put a hose on them for, like, 15, 20 minutes, and I'll water them deep, but that might be all I water them for a week, and then I'll come another week and do it again, but I'll just water deep and long and really saturate it and then just walk away from it for, a few days. You're better to do that than go out and water it, like, 5 gallons at a time every day.
And
You're better to saturate the ground.
we talked about it I think that was the podcast we just put out this morning, we talked about testing your soil. He might wanna see how much clay he's got in there and stuff
Yeah,
too.
I mean, there's definitely things you can do you can do a
Yeah.
jar test and figure out what your, soil composition is for
'Cause
sure.
if there's a lot of clay, you might have to add something to
Yeah, because
'cause you
it'll
don't
just
yeah.
your water will just disappear, it'll roll right off and go away. But yeah, just dig like you said, though, digging a larger hole, really getting it loosened up, probably
A
be
lot of
okay, but
work, trust me.
yeah, yeah, if
No.
you're doing it in a pasture like that, and hopefully that the horses weren't fed any, like, Grazon or anything like that, that passes through the horse manure and gets on your pastures,
That
and
would be a concern.
that would be
Or
a
yeah,
concern for a horse pasture, I think, because there's a
yeah,
lot
'cause
of the feed they get, has been sprayed, a lot of the hay they get's been sprayed with things that will pass right through an animal,
yeah.
so I would worry about that a little bit unless I just knew.
Can you test for that, do you know?
I think you test for it, but also you could probably just look at your pasture and see if there's any broadleaf growing in your pasture,
Oh,
because it
that's
would
true.
kill the broadleaf in your pasture if
Yeah.
if it was doing that.
Yeah, that's
Um,
always a concern for me
yeah,
with it when you're coming behind a conventional farm, what
yeah,
was
yeah.
used, there. But again, like we were saying, you can grow mushrooms to try to amend some of that and remove them. Biochar has been shown to be promising for some of that stuff too. I
And I
don't
forget
know if
what
it
the
works for
half-life is.
that.
Like, there's what's called a half-life, and that means every year it cuts in half. But and usually it's so many years of half-life for a lot of things. And I don't know what some of you have to look at that too. If it's been, 8, 9, 10
Right,
years since those horses run, you're probably fine because
right.
that stuff doesn't last forever. It has half-lives and it reduces by half every year, usually, however many years that is, what they call it, how many, uh, I forget how they break that down or how they word that, but even stuff they're spraying on cornfields lasts a couple years and it's gone.
Right.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah, we just wanna bring back that micro we just wanna bring back all of those little friends that come in and help us in the soil, and, um, the poison's gone, but it takes us a little bit longer to get some of them back.
yeah, you gotta get that soil, food web, growing again, living again, and it takes a little bit of time to get that happening. But I
Yeah,
mean, if there was nothing like that, and you've had horse manure decomposing on it, and it was good, clean stuff, and yeah, there should be plenty of micronutrients in that soil, I would think, to feed a tree well. Um, so yeah, I think it'd probably do
okay.
fine. I think it'd
Yeah.
be fine. If I remember right, I think he's not too far. I think he's maybe in Indiana also.
Yeah, he
Tell me
just
if
commented and said that he does have some, large bare spots, which horses kind of tend to do. They're a big animal, and
oh yeah, I
they
see that now.
yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, no, don't recall any broadleaf out there, huh? Yeah, yeah, he's not too far away from me. Um, yeah, hopefully hopefully that's a big problem with
Yeah,
horses.
it's become a big problem with a lot of farms
Yeah, and
having
horses,
issues
I
with
think
it.
with horse feed, it's probably the worst because they just don't even, uh yeah, it's just a huge problem. And I think there's like 3 or 4 of them. I know Grazon's one, but there's another one that's been popular, like, the last couple of years that, a lot of homesteaders have been talking about it. Um,
Yeah, it's
there
been
was I think
people
it was,
brought in
Jessica
compost that
Sowers
yeah,
was one of them, and she said that they put it in raised beds, I believe, or something, and then they
yes,
couldn't grow anything in it.
yeah.
So yeah, it's happening. It's something you gotta really pay attention to, and, hopefully yeah, I don't know. I don't know what a test I don't know a soil test would pick up on that or
I don't
not.
know
I
either. I don't
probably
know if Logan
yeah, I don't know.
I don't have the paper in here. I just was looking at my Logan Lab sheet. Do I? No. Because they do a definitely more extensive tests, but I don't know if they test for that. But I mean, I believe that all soil can be fixed and rejuvenated and regenerated. It's just a matter of time,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't know.
Like I said, it takes
Yeah.
some time for it to go away on its own, plus if you're adding amendments and compost and, just any kind of organic matter to it, it helps it speed that process up. Worm, by having a lot of, biomass put out
Mhm.
there, it, brings in a lot of worm colonies. Worms will help clean it up. So, yeah, just bringing life into the soil will clean it up
Yeah,
quicker. Yeah.
attract as much as you can, put as
Mhm.
much as you can in the compost, birds, bugs, worms, you name it.
Amy says, about 8 years ago, we planted a bare root dwarf almond tree. 5 years later, surprised it grew 2 peaches.
Oh,
Told they
what?
grafted an almond branch to a peach base. That's crazy.
They grafted an
Can you even
almond
I didn't even
branch
know that was a thing. That I thought that
to
I mean,
a
a stone
peach
fruit I didn't know you could
base.
put an almond stone fruit,
I
um,
didn't either.
plant. I'm
That's
not
crazy.
well versed in all the how you do with all the, of
I'm
that,
not
but
either. I That's something I would like to
I
learn a
wasn't
lot more
aware
about,
though that
but
you could put it
yeah,
on a stone fruit, tree, so that's pretty interesting,
the deer ate the almond branch. Yeah,
and it
deer, oh my word, they will decimate trees here.
that would be quite a surprise to plant an almond tree and get some peaches from it. That'd be that'd be something.
I swear that was an almond
Did you
tree.
get almonds also or just
It
peaches?
says in the thing, it says the
Grew
deer ate
2
the
peaches.
almond branch.
They just they graft it did they have different branches that they grafted on, up above? It wasn't so it didn't have a graft at the base, it was maybe they grafted, like, branches onto the tree. You know how they do that? Like, you'll have, like, a whole bunch of different fruit
Huh?
on one tree?
Yes, I have a
Yeah.
multi-graft that's got
Yeah, yeah.
3 apple varieties on it, and one of the branches actually did die, so
Oh,
we've
yeah,
only
she
got
didn't
2.
get any almonds. She
Well,
said,
that's a bummer.
That's wild, though." Yeah.
I would
Did
love to
Gurney's
have
reimburse
I
you
would
for that
love to
tree?
have a
That's what I'd
nut
like to
tree.
know.
The basically We can have walnut trees here, but they're such a pain to process to get
I
walnuts out of.
Yeah, with a small property, I don't want a walnut tree because of
I know
the
they're huge,
well,
and then you
yeah,
got
and
the
then it
juggling.
just limits, you know,
Yep,
you can't grow a lot of things close to
yep.
them, and it just limits what you can do. So, if I had a, you know, really large property, I would definitely have some, like a grove of them at the far end of a property or something, because 'cause they're a useful tree. They're a great
Well, there are
tree.
some bushes that have nuts, and that's more where I've kind of leaned.
Yeah, I have, oh, what's the
Hazelnut?
hazelnut. Yeah, I have
Yep.
hazelnut, um, and I have an almond tree, so
Do you
we'll
have
s
almond tree?
I do have an almond
I
tree, yeah.
ordered some hazelnuts, so I'm really excited to get
I
those.
planted the almond tree 2 years ago, and it's still only, like, 4 feet tall. It was really small when I planted it, though. It was only about
Are those
maybe
a
a foot
hardwood as
tall.
well, like all the other nut trees, like a hard is it a hardwood? Slow
Uh,
growers usually are.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
definitely a slow growing tree, and it was grown from seed. I bought that from a guy who has a local nursery, here,
Oh,
and
you grew it from seed?
he grew it from seed.
Wow.
So, I'm excited to see what it turns into one of these days. I might be long dead before it gets maturity, but anyway,
I
it
have a
is a very slow
chestnut
growing.
tree. I have 2 chestnut trees that were grown from seed.
Yeah.
They'll probably take forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those hybrid ones that they grow, because a lot of people buy those for, like, deer, plots and things, those hybrid chestnuts, and I guess they grow pretty
The
fast.
Chinese chestnuts? Is that what they are?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, that but I know they sell them at, like, all the box stores and stuff,
Because
but a
I
lot
know
of
that there's the, just the native chestnut, which
yeah,
most of them died from
yeah,
disease, so
it's a
then
hybrid, I know, but I don't know
I
what
think it might
it
be
is,
the
but
Chinese.
I
I'm
just
not
know that
sure which
they
one
buy them
I
for deer
have.
plots and things, so
Yeah.
I think they grow pretty fast, though,
I'm not
those
sure which
kind.
one we have, but it's about I don't know, it was like a foot tall when we planted it last year. So
Nick Ferguson would be able to tell us all about all this. We had him on the
ne
you had him on the
yeah.
podcast a couple of months ago, and he's very knowledgeable, and, he'll be going up
He's
there in
coming to
your
Michigan.
yeah, he's coming to Michigan. You got him coming up there for
I
teach some
do,
classes
for a
here in a few
class. I'm
months.
really excited.
When is
We
that,
got
like
him for a day.
June or July or
It
something?
is July oh gosh, I should have the date.
Well,
Um,
so folks that are up there in Middle Michigan area, the upper Michigan, they could
July
cruise on in
7th.
for that. It'll be
It's a
fun.
Friday. Friday, July 7th. He will be teaching a, full day class.
Yeah. I also know he's gonna be down to that Self-Reliant Festival
Yes,
in
he
Camden,
is.
Tennessee also,
Yep.
so he's down there. That guy is just,
He is a
he
tree
knows
guy
he
through
knows a
and through,
lot
like
about any question. I mean, I point you to him for
yeah.
wiser speech than
And
us
he
because
is
that guy knows a
in
lot of things.
he's not on social media a lot, but he is in that tree fodder group. I've seen him in
Yeah,
there on and off when he does
yeah.
get on. He
I think he's
answers.
probably in all the tree groups
Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah, he's really
Um,
yeah,
but
go back and listen to that episode. He had a lot of good things to
he
say about
did.
tree fodder and tree hay and
And he had a book I don't have the book in here with me, but there was a few books that he recommended
yeah, I
too that
got one of them. I
I'm
got that tree
reading.
fodder book that he
Yeah, I
talked
don't have it
about.
within arm's reach. I got mine out by my reading chair.
Yeah, mine's behind me somewhere, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's at. It's right here behind me somewhere on that bookshelf.
But
Um,
there's that and, I think in that podcast interview I did with him, there was quite a few links to for stuff that he,
mhm.
um a few archive books from years and years ago.
I've
But
had I've had really good luck with trees though. I mean, they tend to. I've had a couple. It seemed like for a couple years, I kept trying to grow peach trees, and those were the ones that end up getting root bound. I had one or two of
okay.
those get root bound. I had, of course, I had a dog that had a personal vendetta against it. One of them, and then, but this last couple of years, I planted a blood peach over on this new property, and
Is the
it
flesh red then?
yes,
Ooh,
it's
that
reddish. It's yeah, no, not yeah. Inside, it's actually red. Yeah,
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it the best tasting peaches I've ever ate in my life, and it
Oh,
was
we
abundant.
had 2 nectarine trees in our yard, and I had never had like, when you eat fresh fruit from the tree, you realize that what you're getting at the store was picked weeks ago before it was even ripe,
Mhm.
because those were so amazing, but ours were
Yeah.
killed by we had, in 2015, and the only reason I know what year it is now is because my Facebook memories showed me, but in 2015, we had 2 or 3 weeks of, like, -30 degree, and our nectarine trees died then. They
But
did not make it.
I think those are the only trees I've ever actually. Well, I had a neighbor's dog chew the top off of a. I had 2 pawpaw trees over here on the property line. Their neighbor's dog in the wintertime went out and just chewed on
Chewed 'em
them.
off.
I don't know, he
Oh
just chewed the
my.
top off of them, and then, of course, they died. It's like sticks sticking up when he got done with them. So I've only got 1 pawpaw, and I had 3, and he ate one of the peach trees
Do you like
also.
pawpaw? Are yours producing?
No, they're not producing yet, and,
Okay.
from what I understand, with just 1, it won't.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get another one or 1 or
Okay,
2 to
okay.
get them to produce. So I had 3, but now I have 1, and it's doing pretty
Oh,
well.
yeah.
It's 4 or 5 feet tall. It was really small when I planted it too. It was like a foot tall when I planted it. It was really small.
I keep
Grown
hearing about them, but I've never
ano
had it.
another one grown from seed. They call it the Indiana banana here. That's what they call it. So it is a kind of a banana
Yeah, the
taste
other
to it.
thing I've wanted to try is hardy kiwi,
Yeah,
but I don't have.
I planted it. It grew pretty decent one year, and it didn't make it through the winter, and I don't
Okay.
know. I haven't tried growing it again since then,
Well,
but
that's like my figs. I'm really kind of on the verge of being able to grow them, and that's why they're
yeah.
in pots.
I actually got some figs. I planted it in spring. I planted a fig tree in the spring of last year and actually got 2 or 3 figs off of it
Right.
last fall. So I'm hoping this winter it does really well and comes back strong next year, and we'll see how it does. So
That'd be cool.
I hope. I mean, I feel like I'm on the edge too. It's a Chicago fig. It's supposed
Right.
to be able to live through
I
our
think
winters,
it's
but
their zone. It might be 6, but I
yeah.
think it might be I don't know. I think it's 6.
Yeah, I'm excited about, it producing some,
Yeah, that was cool. I know, the reason I got mine wasn't just for the figs, was because you can use part of a branch and a leaf to make cheese
mhm.
for
I heard you
rennet.
say that before,
Yeah,
yeah. That's
which is why I wanted it. So, yeah.
I long term, I think about it propagates really easy too. It's a tree
That's
that
what
you
I've
can
heard.
take cuttings from and that's what I hear. I've not done it. So I would like to try to just expand with that tree and just get a bunch of them, and then maybe, who knows, pass those on at some point too. But yeah, I'd like to just I like trees like that you can take cuttings from and
Right.
you know, produce from them and expand. It's just like bushes, like blackberries and raspberries, things. You buy 1 or 2, you can have 100 in no time. Elderberry, same way. Comfreys
Yeah.
like that. I mean, there's so many plants that within a couple, 2 or 3 years, you can just expand them like crazy through your property. So I love plants like that. I just
Well,
love
it's
any
like
kind of tree or bush or anything like
printing
that.
money. It really is. And if you have animals that can eat those fruits or those trees or the nuts or any part of that, it's it's just such a cost
Yeah.
saving, and it's so much better for the animal too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, folks,
yeah.
I think we're going to start wrapping it up here. If you have any last minute questions, go ahead and throw them in there. But
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it's turned into a little tree topic talk today. That's mostly what
I
we
guess
talked
so.
about, which is good. Which is, yeah, I mean, it's a great little conversation about different things with trees, the soil, and the actual trees themselves. It's been on my mind a lot. I just wrote I had to write
Right,
I
that's
wrote a
right, you
book
did just
about
write that book.
homestead trees for a I just popped out 110 pages on homestead
Nice.
trees that's going to be coming out in a thing that I'm part of, little homestead bundle
Harold
thing.
the author.
Well,
Are you gonna put that available up on your website?
at some point it'll be,
Okay.
yeah, after the homestead bundle's over and everything, it'll probably just be something. I might just use it. Who knows? I don't know what I'll do with it. I cover a lot of things with it though. I was digging into that for about 4 weeks typing on that. So I
Right.
can write, but I'm not a fast writer. I have to think. I write about as fast as I talk. So I'm not a fast writer. Yep, it's time to go. Rachel's
Yes, I'm
yawning.
yawning, sorry, I tried not to.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, this is late night for us. We're
Yeah,
early
it's
to bed,
you
early
were
to
up
rise.
earlier than me this
Yeah, I was
morning,
up
but
at 2:30 this morning because I had to edit the podcast that went out this morning because I didn't have it done yet. I usually try to have it done before that, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna have to get up early and get that one out."
yeah,
So,
I was up at 4, but you beat me.
yeah, 4 is my usual time, but yeah,
Yeah.
2:30 this morning. So I'll be going to bed here in about an hour or so, probably. Well, folks, glad you joined us today. You can find, of course, the Modern Homesteading Podcast on all the podcast
Yeah,
players. You can find my blog at redemptionpermaculture.com and Rachel's blog at rewilderlife.com. So
yeah, and I
good
have a
stuff there.
Facebook page too for that.
Yeah.
I'm not as prolific at writing as Harold is with work, but I'm trying to slowly build the blog up.
Yeah, you're doing a great job too. And yeah, we're always in the homestead front porch. So you can always reach out to us there with more questions. And we appreciate y'all joining us this evening. It was a lot of fun. So,
Thank you, everyone.
yeah. Have a great one.